This is the Unshadowed Thought Podcast with James Hall. This podcast is dedicated to Michelle Goyevich, Ed White, Caitlin Treacle, and I Chan, and also all the others that have lost their life as a direct result of psychiatric harms.
Okay, so this is day one, and day one of fasting. It's a prolonged fast. This is going to be like a kind of audio journal of sorts to record my experience, my thoughts. Really, what I'd like to do is give people an idea of the process, what to expect, and what happens. And kind of witness the changes as they occur, and then to have a record of it as well. So today's day one. To prepare for the last 2 days, I just ate fruits and vegetables. It's supposed to help your digestive tract when you come off the fast. Which is a concern, right? I'm setting out to do a 30-day fast. If things went really, really well, I'd consider doing 40 if there's indications that I'm starving, which starvation is different than fasting. Starvation is when you run out of reserves, nutritional reserves that are stored in your body, and your body starts basically breaking down the organs and additional muscle tissue and stuff like that. So there's a difference. There's a physiological difference, there's a symptomatic difference, there's an experiential difference, and all that. So I'm fasting. So if there's signs of starvation, I'll break the fast. If there's signs that I'm having health problems or kind of symptoms that are unrelated to the fast that are creeping up, I'll stop. But I've read several books, of which I'll probably share later. Joined a fasting group and stuff. It's really interesting because if you look at resources online and you look at fasting clinics, they're really insistent that you do it supervised. And my doctor knows that I'll be fasting. He's fasted before. He's got some experience with it. He's not really concerned, luckily. So in a way, I'm supervised, but I'm not directly supervised. He's not going to do blood work, or he didn't think there was a need to do blood work. He just thought I'd just go after it, and then I can just stay in contact with him during the process. So that's how I've decided to do it. I don't really have the resources to go to a clinic. I think the clinic experience would be really cool. There's something to be said for just stepping away from your life entirely, going into a different setting with people that are really familiar with the process, and giving it a go from there. That being said, I fasted several times before in my life, usually between 3 and 5 days, if I remember right. And so I do have some experience. I know typically the beginning part of the fast is the hardest part. So I know what that entails. I don't have a lot of experience with complications that might come later, but I've read about them, and I have a doctor I can consult with and a group I can consult with. So I feel pretty confident that we can handle that stuff. And really, once you've been fasting, if you have concerns or anything crops up, all you can do is break the fast and then go from there. So there's not a lot to consider. Either I feel like it's safe to go forward or I don't. Either way, I make the decision myself. But that's it. It's really black and white. It's not like there's these different medical interventions involved or different decision making choices you can make. It's all or nothing, really. So that being the case, I was pretty comfortable doing this, and I'm excited. There's a lot of neurological changes that could happen, so I'm really trying to heal myself from injury from transcranial magnetic stimulation, and that's what I'm aiming to do with this. So that being said, the first day, I kind of cleansed. I had kind of a fruit and vegetable cleanse the last couple of days. I don't know, cleanse maybe is the wrong word, but I just changed my diet. So it already started changing kind of, I don't know. It works you towards ketosis because your body digests that stuff really quickly. So I think in a way, my body's already starting to fast or change over the last 2 days, and which made me feel lightheaded, kind of dingy. I kind of felt my system slowing down. I kind of felt my brain function slowing down. And for me, I associate that with cognitive impairment, which it is to a certain extent, but there's a little bit of a difference, you know. Yeah, it feels very, very similar. You know, you have this brain fog as well, and at some moments maybe it feels exactly the same, or it is kind of presents in the same way. But generally, I feel calmer. So I'm not as panicky as I typically am. Not as depressive, right? It moves me to the middle of the mark in terms of my emotional state. So when I have brain fog, it's more of like I feel calmer and I'm able to deal with it a little bit better when I'm kind of going through this kind of fasting state. And that's what I experienced in the past as well. So today, when I started fasting, so when I woke up until now, so it's been like 6-7 hours or something probably. I've just felt kind of slow, groggy. Everything's kind of happening slowly from me. I'm more cautious with stuff because I feel a little bit more tired. You don't feel as energetic. And again, for me, having a TMS injury, that just depends. On any given day, I could feel way worse than this. So for me, fasting, it's not a negative. It really doesn't have any negatives from what I've experienced with fasting in the past. I mean, some crazy side effect could pop up that because I'm TMS harmed is maybe agitated by the fast. It's possible, I suppose. I haven't read or heard anything about that yet. So I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. I'm trying to be aware of that going forward. But generally, the symptoms of the fast or the difficulty with the fast is much easier to go through than being neurologically harmed. So I'm not particularly worried about it. And like today, I didn't feel any worse than any other day, really. Lots of days I feel really similar. But I've had a little bit of like fear or stress creep in around the fast, thinking, okay, I'm really doing this right now. You know, I'm stepping into territory that I've never been in, intent on going a great distance of which I've never experienced and been through before. So kind of have these pangs that come and go during the day. Not as bad as I expected, to be honest, but they've come and gone, and it's really this fear around not eating, right? Like I'll see food, or I'll be around food, or I'll have this routine of eating food where I'm denying myself that and I'm stopping my thinking. It's like, okay, well, no, we're not going to do that, right? And then just kind of reflexively, I automatically think there's something wrong with this, right? Like you need to eat. Maybe you're getting yourself into trouble with this. And then so how I've always dealt with fasting in the past is with calm. Like I just slow down my thinking and kind of reframe where I'm at. Like, no, I know what I'm doing. You know, this is what I'm doing. I'm glad to do it. I'm excited. And that's it, you know. And when I calm myself down and kind of retrain my thinking, everything, you know, the stress just kind of melts away and I'm good to go. And luckily I've been on several fasts, so that is kind of like second nature, or I'm pretty effective at it. I remember the first couple times I fasted, it was much harder to get over those fears, and they affected me a lot more. And I would, you know, second guess my fast, and then I would, you know, make plans to eat and really consider whether I should just break it now or not, or whether I'm going to break it tomorrow instead of breaking it and at a different time, that kind of thing. And now I think I'm pretty good at eliminating those second thoughts and kind of the compulsion to do something you didn't originally plan to do, unless you're in a scenario that you agreed to before the fast. So that being said, that's kind of how I'm feeling. So I haven't had a lot of huge changes. A lot of people, well, I think people with fairly clean systems, they don't experience a lot of big changes on the first few days. I'm probably in that category to some regard because I've been trying to eat really clean for a while to heal myself neurologically from my injury. But other people can feel really horrible the first day and the first series of days. I expect that I'll probably feel a lot worse after the second day. I think day 3, 4, 5 are probably going to be really hard for me, and I'll probably feel really tired. I'll probably have some amount of detox and other effects that maybe my brain fog gets more intense, my fatigue gets more intense. I start questioning a little bit more if it's a good idea. You kind of get out of your head a little bit. Like I don't think real clearly. My thoughts jump around. I would say it's definitely similar to a dissociative state, but you feel a little bit mad, and it's like, and I mean, one of the biggest parts of a fast is the spiritual side of things. People feel like they're spiritually being fed, even though when they're starving from food, or not starving for food, but giving food up. They're not getting that intake, which I think is a really interesting concept, which I've experienced as well. So in that way, today I feel like I'm losing my attachment to reality. Like I don't feel as grounded because I'm not eating. And it makes you feel like you're not, maybe this makes me feel this way, like I'm not as in control of my life, I'm not as in control of my environment and what's going on around me. And that's it's a physical feeling I get, and I think it's also like a psychological feeling as well, or a psychological concept I'm kind of pushing around in my head and my thoughts. And it's interesting because today, when I was doing a few things this morning, I was thinking down those lines, and I'm kind of my thoughts for the day were, how attached are we to our reality and the things going on around us? How attached are we to media and all these sources of ideology that we get? And what happens if we gave those up? Are we afraid to give those things up? What if we fasted from those things to see what we really think, instead of allowing ourselves to be influenced all the time by what's going on around us? With this fast, I decided that I'm giving up a lot of other things too: media, relationships, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm really just fasting, and then I'm going to do some art. I'm going to do some projects that I've been wanting to do for a while, but largely I'm fasting from all outside influence as well. I'm going to meditate every day, or try to get to it every day. I'm going to stretch, and really listen well to my body and get rid of everything on the outside so I can get comfortable again with my own thoughts and beliefs and that sort of thing. So it throws into stark contrast how much influence and manipulation is going on around us, and how much we physically bring that into our life every day. I mean, if we get up and we're watching TV, then we're getting online, then we're going to a job, and then we're going to the store and talking to other people, all this stuff, it really leaves very little room for our own thoughts and actions, in my opinion anyways. And certainly it's been this way historically in my life. And so you got to ask yourself, where does that leave you, right? I was talking to somebody the other day, and when I talk to people, lots of times I'll go on tangents and I'll start talking about injustice a lot, right? Like a lot of people I know are harmed, and even more people I know don't care that other people are harmed. All the organizations and people I talk to that are professional stuff, they could give a rip about anybody else except for themselves. They pretend that they care about their family. They pretend that they care about their community, but they don't. Why? Because they don't do anything about it, right? Even having a conversation with them, they minimize their own ability to influence these things, and they maximize the rationale for selfishness and self-interest. And that's where I see us, right? Things occupy our times. Most of those things are motivated by money. Media is getting paid to fill our heads with rubbish and take up our time, so that the time that we do have and we do leverage for ourselves, we spend it shopping online, looking for solutions to our personal problems, that kind of stuff, right? And so we're so focused on ourselves, it's created this whole construct of helplessness and uselessness. I mean, I used to ruminate all the time before psychiatry, and then during, taking part in psychiatry, so taking meds, and before I did TMS, I'd ruminate all the time on how helpless I felt and how I couldn't affect anything in my environment, and how I was a victim of all the things going on around me. Well, the fact is that was true. I was just seeing the truth of the matter. Like, I was worried about getting hurt, and how if anything negative happened to me, say if I couldn't work, or I needed to take time off from work, or in my relationships, if I was honest, right, I would have no recompense, no relief. No one was there to help me out, right? Like, if you get hurt at work, you got to go through all of these hurdles that are all largely unfair and disproportionate and disrepresentative of what's really happening, right? And then you're just left out in the cold. If you don't do exactly what they say, or you don't fill out a form right, you're left with nothing. And yet we still buy insurance and handle insurance and do all these things when they don't even serve us. Same thing, if my boss gets mad at me and makes my life hell, I have no recourse. I go to HR. I've been here. You go to HR, you talk to them. They will not do anything, because that's leadership is more important than the workers on the ground level, which is a complete joke. The ground floor workers are the ones that are actually making the business work, and they should be a priority over all leadership. I've met CEOs, I've met executives, and they're idiots. They're complete idiots. I've talked to dozens and dozens and dozens of them and presented to them. I mean, calling another human being an idiot isn't real couth, or it's kind of crass, but this is the truth. Their ideology is so self-important and so disproportionate most times from reality, that they are completely ineffective at doing anything except for controlling and forcing change, that lots of times is unhelpful and doesn't even work financially. But everyone is so focused on just doing something that they make up whatever narrative or story that they want, and they force it to fit, and then whoever else is around them just tries to go forward with it. And this is the way the American corporation runs, and it's a complete joke. I worked for Fortune 10 company, and I've seen it over and over and over again at the highest levels. I'm sure there's a few good companies in the U.S. that actually work on a fair, balanced paradigm. But no, I mean, even with the best of them, I could go in and look and show all the ways that things were unethical and disproportionately weighed out in terms of their business model. It's just the fact of the matter is that everyone looks at business through this capitalistic lens of, here's this corporate structure where there's a guy at the top making all the profits, and the people at the bottom, they do all the work, and the intelligent people at the top tell them how to work because they're too stupid to know how to do it the best for themselves. And then as soon as they have a problem or there's an issue, we get rid of the people at the bottom, and then we get new people in and just retrain them with our ultra intelligent ideas and methodologies so that they understand how to best work. And it's ridiculous and it's dumb. It's because these people have degrees, and in society we have to honor their monetary and personal commitments to higher education, so they deserve a place above others to get paid better and their ideas are better and all this stuff. And the fact is that I've seen, frontline workers with much better ideas than executives and management all the time on a daily basis, because they're there with the functional knowledge, learning, and submitting their ideas, and they always get overlooked. But that's the best sort of source of intelligence and information that a company has, and yet they don't leverage it at all. I'm totally sidetracking, but this is a fundamental misunderstanding that everyone around us has, that we all communicate to each other and reinforce this misunderstanding over and over again, right? This is the way it is. It has to be this way. This is the best way, right? And all of us are so busy participating in that kind of mentality that we don't stop and think that there's a better way, and we can actually do it better, in a more effective, better methodology. But when we fast from these things, when we take a break and we step outside it, and we fast from other things as well, we get this perspective, and I think a part of our spiritual self comes alive, and we realize we don't need things as much as we do. If a human being cannot eat food for 40 days and be perfectly fine, if not better, at the end of that, what does that say about how we live and the way we do what we do every day? Because everyone else out there is saying you need to eat 3 meals a day, you need to get all these different kinds of foods. If you don't have time, you can just eat fast food. You can just eat crap, and you'll be fine. Everyone's fine eating crap. There's no medical problems in the U.S., and it's definitely not tied to food. That's absurd. But if you don't eat, then you'll be cranky, or you'll start having medical problems, and you'll be undernourished, and then all these other things will suffer. So just make sure you get food, and it has to be really quick and poisonous. Then that's fine. This is just one dimension of the thoughts that go through our head every day, and it's absolutely horrendous. So if we stop and we change how we look at that, and we start thinking for ourselves, then we gain this totally other perspective, and the truth starts to come out. You see, every single person out there that's trying to tell you what the truth is should be really, really seriously questioned. In fact, we should be really seriously questioning everything, because I don't really see many things that are working effectively anymore. I don't see business in the U.S. being effective. I see it being tyrannical and destructive. Sure, profits are up, but our quality of life is way down, and people are being destroyed over it. I was destroyed over it. My physical and mental health were completely destroyed from my job, and there's zero people who care. There's zero ways for me to do anything about that. So that's happening on a huge scale, and yet there's not a single reporting entity or a single other person out there that's saying, hey, let's look and see how many people's mental and physical health are being destroyed by work, and let's try to quantify and classify those things so that we can change things. We have so many different things available to us, right? There's all these different media platforms, marketing platforms, ways to buy things, all these different government organizations that do all these different functions. But I don't see anyone doing anything important, right? And what frame or lens am I seeing this through? I'm seeing it through just not eating, right? If I don't have to eat, and that can actually be a good thing for me, what is everybody else doing, and why are those things important, right? At this stage, I'm really questioning a lot of things, and I see a lot of work being done, and I really don't see many valuable results. Is there some? Sure, but not a whole lot. You think about that. I think there's a tremendous amount of brilliance out there, And I don't see us acting on much of that brilliance. Yeah. But I'm tangenting, which is what this is for. But those are the kind of thoughts I'm having today. So we'll see how they evolve as time goes forward. But I'm questioning a lot of things as I'm walking around and doing stuff where I'm not eating and everyone else is eating. I'm questioning like how much of the things we all do are automatic and we just do what we think we need to do without putting very little thought or questioning very little about what's going on. I think it's really amazing that we all do so much, but out of all the things that we do, we understand very little about it. And I realized that a while ago about myself. I said, I'm not working anymore, I'm disabled, so I want to understand everything that I do. I can't do anything anymore that I don't understand. So I'm endeavoring to understand every single thing that I do, and if I don't understand it, I'm not doing it. I'm going to take the time to understand it before I do it and before I participate in it. And that's been a huge change for me. And as a part of that change has been realizing that no, most people don't do that. Almost everybody, almost their entire schedule and everything that they're doing on a daily basis, they don't understand what they're doing, what the downstream and upstream impacts are of their life and the lives of the people around them. And I mean, I know I'm not being terribly specific, but really my goal is just to think for myself better and then to encourage other people to think for themselves. And I think if we start doing that, if we start getting more and more people that are thinking critically, and then here's the caveat, here's the big part, and acting based on their thoughts, then we'll see big change. I am not seeing big change right now from anything or anyone. A lot of people have these really good ideas. They figured a lot of stuff out, but no one is doing much of anything about it. Like millions of Americans, hundreds of millions of Americans are being, I don't know, what's the population in the U.S.? It was like 130 million. It's probably a lot more now. But I'm saying a huge population in the U.S. Is being hurt by medications and medical devices, and then even more are being pushed into that system from harm they're getting from their jobs, environmental harms, and then there's this huge epidemic of poor eating, and then the medical, harm, the physiological harm from that, and then they're going to the medical system and then being harmed and or just dying as a result. And the older we get, the more our quality of life is going down, right? And this is a huge issue, but what are we doing about it? A lot of people have done things to identify the problems, but we're not doing anything to fix it. So we need a lot of critical thinkers and then critical doers that are not willing to do anything until we know what we're doing and we can proceed in the right direction. I mean, there's this huge behemoth that is the U.S. and its government and its people and its business, commerce and everything. This huge juggernaut is just going forward because it's already in motion when it needs drastically to stop and to change direction. And I don't know that anyone has the will or the power to do that, to change this stuff. Even if you wanted to, what would you do? So I thought about it for a long time, and the only solution I can think of is it takes all the individuals acting and thinking for themselves to shift and to change. So, I mean, it could take so long to do that, but we all have to be acting and thinking for ourselves, right? And that doesn't mean that it has to be selfish or self-interested, but you have to think for yourself. So you have to identify. It's like, hey, I need a community and a culture and a tribe that cares about each other and puts each other first, right? And then you can put those ideas and those people first, right? But you're still thinking for yourself. You're still thinking critically and acting critically. Yeah, so that's my idea. That's what I've been thinking about today. Total trip. The day seems to go by really, really slow. That's the other thing, is that time seems to change a bit because you don't really know what to do with yourself. Everything you do is based on 3 meals a day, and you're always looking forward to that next meal, or you're always preparing for that next meal. But when you don't have that, all of a sudden your day gets incredibly more productive. I've already started making lists of stuff that I want to do to occupy myself. But when you're just looking to the next thing that you're going to do instead of the next meal you're going to have, it shifts a lot of perspective, priorities, that kind of thing. And most importantly, it shifts your thinking. So that's where I'm at. Hope everybody out there is doing well. And I'll drop another one tomorrow.